Welcome, my friends. This is Maniacal Incorporated, bringing you the distressing news that Ireland has fallen to communism. At least that's what a number of newspapers and international media outlets are saying since the weekend when we elected Catherine Connolly as our new president. A largely ceremonial position, but that's not stopping some very upset people saying that we've fallen to communism. She was a left-leaning member of the parliament, and she was backed by a united left alliance of parties like Sinn Féin, the Social Democrats, the Labour Party, which she was a former member of, People Before Profit, even the Communist Party of Ireland backed her. And her election made me think about doing a run of Suzerain and trying to create a character as close to Catherine Connolly as possible and making some decisions which would be as close as possible to the types of decisions that she would make if she was in the position of President of Sordland. And here we have Anton Rayne, the President of Sordland, who we will be taking over the role of. So we're going to try and mould this guy into being as close to Catherine Connolly as possible. I only picked up this game a couple of weeks ago on the recent Steam sale. For some reason I hopped off of it when it came out day one. You would think that a political simulator with tons of reading, that should be an insta-buy for me, but for some reason I didn't pick it up. It just kind of passed me by. I worried that it might be a bit too linear, but from what I've heard, it's not. And what actually got me into this eventually was the news that there is a Disco Elysium-like CRPG coming out, set in this world. So that's why I picked this up. But now that I have it, we're going to try and create, like I said, we're going to try and create Catherine Connolly, the leader of Sordland, which is a country of 36 million people. It's in a recession. It's a major power. So we're going to start off as close to Catherine Connolly as possible. But we're going to be put in a position, especially in terms of defence and geopolitical concerns, that Ireland would never have to even think about. So we're going to have to do make some strange choices. We're going to start off as close to real-world Catherine Connolly as possible, and then we're going to diverge badly from there. Speaking of, we'll say real-world Ireland, I believe over here is Galmland, which some people believe is based on Ireland, and think is going to be in the next DLC for this game. There it is, we get a slightly better view of it. So first things first, we must create our character. It is the year 1908 in the Kingdom of Sordland. And I don't think it's quite right to say that Catherine Connolly came from an impoverished family. I don't think it would be fair to say middle income. She was one of 14 children. Her father was a carpenter. Her mother passed away quite young. And they lived in social housing. I don't think it's quite fair to say impoverished, but it's probably the closest option that we have here. So your parents named you Anton. As the only child of a farmer, you spent your childhood among wheat and fields. Life was not easy. You were too poor to afford a good education. The Rayne family was caring, regardless of the economically dire situation. Your parents always did their best to support you. The years passed. So this is pretty much my first time playing the game. I've played through the first couple of minutes of it just to kind of see what the gameplay is like. I've created a character to see kind of what the options were and to try and figure out which ones might be the most accurate, so we might rush through this a small bit. During a history class, the bell started to ring unexpectedly. You heard a loud commotion outside. The Kingdom of Sordland was no more, and the Republic was born. We were happy to have the day off. I'm not too sure what major choice that contributes to. I think we have an option to kind of set the difficulty. We're going to go with the middle path. So in their struggle, you saw both pain and perseverance, and sought balance between the two, so we could get easier or harder resources. We'll go with the middle path. After graduating, you passed the university exam with high marks. Even though your family was poor, the public education system made it possible to go to university. You had the opportunity to choose between several studies. Catherine Connolly studied initially as a clinical psychologist, I believe, but went on to get a law degree from University College Galway. During the first year, you attended a lecture with David Whiskey. He was a well-known diplomat from the Foreign Ministry and the son of the President. After observing the whole in silence, he explained how the Supreme Court is obstructing justice in Sordland. He stated that laws should be applied fairly and that even the members of the Supreme Court are subject to the same laws. I would imagine you agreed in principle would be along the lines of what Catherine Connolly would say. Soldiers enter the campus in the evening ahead of the first election. So, the Republic is formed in 23, and the first election is being held in 27. So, have we been under a kind of an emergency government for the first 4 years? Many were in shock. David Whiskey, the guy in the last question, his father was the president, so I'm wondering, was he like an emergency president from 23 to 27? But ahead of the first election, soldiers have entered the ground, along with our best friend, Peter Vectrin. We decide to protest with the students. One of the officers made a loud announcement that echoed through the campus. General Luthramon has declared martial law in order to restore the administration. Please stand back and disperse to your rooms. So they charge. A student fell and was trampled as everybody started running away. I think Catherine Connolly strikes me as the type of person that would hold their ground. The soldiers beat you relentlessly. It was a gloomy year. The arrested teachers were replaced by those that promoted conformism to the state. Hull Sword, the capital, turned a blind eye to the things that were happening. You didn't want to stay idle and decided to join, I think, a human rights group would probably be the most fitting. Some rather mean people have said that she belongs on a student council and not as President of Ireland. We'll go with a human rights group. The group heavily protested against the deteriorating human rights situation in Sordland. You contributed in thorough discussions on how to protect and expand freedoms. In one of the meetings, Peter Vectrin introduced you to a classmate, Monica, you were immediately attracted to. We're not going to go too overboard in trying to fit every single detail to meet reality, but I know that Catherine Connolly's husband, who nobody knows his name because he's been very much in the background, not a figure that has sought the limelight, the new first man of Ireland, but a very diligent individual who's put in a tremendous amount of work in the local area. I believe actually had some health problems a number of years ago, and once he overcame those, went straight back to working in the local community and helping in the local community. So we'll go with diligence. She mentioned to you that she was a volunteer for the Swordish League of Women. You told her you wholeheartedly supported her cause. The politically charged environment led you to join the Red Youth, the Socialists, the Labour Party. A great kind of Papers, Please. I'm not too sure if it's coming across, but the sounds of somebody speaking through the megaphone sounds a lot like Papers, Please. The radio relayed that the communist General Ricard surrounded Lutheran, the Luthramon, and his troops, demanding their surrender. They refused and heavy fighting broke out across the country. You just couldn't believe it. The army was fighting amongst themselves. Sordland plunged into chaos. Ricard's sudden attack caused more instability in the country, but compared to nationalist Lutheran, he was a real socialist. This convinced you to participate in a support march. You were chanting, so I don't think it would be bring down the nationalists. She doesn't strike me as a kind of a workers of the world, unite type, so we'll go with freedom, equality, and solidarity. You were marching under the protection of Ricard's soldiers. The students supporting Lutheran's coup gathered a few hundred meters in front of you. Many nationalists were among them. You knew something was going to happen. You stayed. You stayed or you left? I'm actually going to go with you left. I don't think I don't think she supports violence in kind of any make, shape, or form. What this seems to be saying is that violence was going to happen. Are you going to take part in that violence? I don't think Catherine Connolly would allow herself to be kind of associated with violence. She's going to step back. The clashes escalated into a full-blown civil war. The horrors made you isolate yourself for a while. Monica helped you cope, and love grew between the two of you. However, it was a difficult time for love. The chaos had to end. The charismatic colonel, Tarquain Soll, orchestrated a sudden attack on the capital, where the Ludranist and Ricardist forces were battling each other. He defeated both of them, ending the war. There's a post on the subreddit, the Suzerain subreddit, in which somebody says that the nearest historical parallel to Tarquain Soll that they have come across is a man by the name of Éamon de Valera. So Tarquain Soll, the president of Sordland, and the famous colonel who re-established the Republic in 1929. And that was one of the main areas that they were focusing on, I think. I haven't actually read the entire article, but it did pretty much seem to be both of them took power after a civil war. Now, there was a bit of a gap between de Valera taking power after the Irish Civil War. We're going to see some interesting stuff related to the economy and Tarquain Soll's position on the economy as we go forward, so do bear that in mind. Tarquain Soll, apparently Éamon de Valera. Well, not apparently, I don't think the devs made de Valera the basis of Tarquain Soll, but some people have seen that. A new constitution was written. Oh, Dev loves constitutions, and the military government began efforts to restore stability. Many people saw the colonel as a saviour. He formed the United Sordland Party and ran as a presidential candidate in the first ever single-party elections. You voted for the United Sordland Party. It's a single party. Oh, so it's only... What will Catherine Connolly do in this scenario? We'll have her vote for the single-party government. The USP won the election. Well, if they're the only one there, I presume so, if that's what's being said. The military government announced a 4-year restoration period to transform to an entirely civilian government. After graduation, you kept seeing Monica. You were both interested in marrying and starting a family. However, a letter arrived from the military calling you to fulfill your compulsory service. The devastating civil war from neighbouring Wayland quickly turned into a proxy war between regional and world powers. The distinguished Major Joseph Lancia ordered you to lead your squad on a border patrol mission. It was a cold winter night when you began marching out of Gumrin Outpost. You could see your breath. So after several hours of marching through the snowy hills, distant noises were heard. It's a group of refugees. They had made it beyond the border fence. You let them slip through. After the patrol, Major Lancia arrived with anger and immediately relieved you of your command, calling you a disappointment. One of your squad members had reported your actions. After several months of scrubbing the floors as punishment, your duties ended and you went back to civilian life. So you and Monica decided to share your lives together. After receiving the blessings of her parents, a ceremony was held in Halsor. During the same year, you worked hard to secure a high-paying job within the governing United Sordland Party. It was much more difficult to start your career on a good footing because of the refugee incident, but you still managed. So working for the ruling path is the easiest way to power. It's the best opportunity to change the country for the better. You became the legal assistant of one of the more experienced members of the Assembly, so we're climbing the ladder. Tarquain Soll gave amnesty to the remaining factions of the Civil War, just like Éamon de Valera, and chose de-escalation and appeasement. The institutions and symbols of the former kingdom were slowly replaced, good man Dev. His government launched several new initiatives, such as a citizen-funded bills program to revitalise the economy, a social labour initiative to help rebuild and improve society, and a large dam project to solve the energy crisis. That was actually W.T. Cosgrave. The first multi-party elections in the history of Sordland were held, and Tarquain Soll was elected once more. The ongoing legal battle between the Justice Ministry and the Supreme Court put you under a lot of stress. And Tarquain Soll meets with us and offers us a key position. We would be the youngest member of the Assembly. We would accept right away. That's how she ended up leaving the Labour Party, was because she wanted to be put forward as the party's candidate in one of the general elections. Michael D. Higgins had indicated that he was going to resign, and then at the last minute put himself forward. And the Labour Party decided not to put forward two candidates, so she left the party and ran as an independent. And she is now succeeding Michael D. Higgins as president. So as the youngest MP, it was difficult to connect with the influential inner circle. So there's the birth of our son Frank. Even this morning, so she was elected on Saturday, but even this morning one of the headlines is, "We'll find a way for tea and chats." So as she's being wheeled off to Ors an Uachtaráin, where she'll spend the next 7 years, to a degree controlled by the government. She's not going to be able to leave the country or things like that, but it's going to be hard for her to maintain friendships with her friends and family in Galway. But already she's saying that a way will be found for tea and chats with her friends and neighbours. So we will sacrifice work to spend time with our family. So Peter Vectrin found trustworthy contacts and strengthened our position in the party. At the same time, Éamon de Valera increased his authority over the years. His growing ego started to cause strife. Within Fianna Fáil, the cracks begin to show. So he barely secured a majority in the 1966 presidential election, barely beating out Tom O'Higgins. Over the next year, the Swordish people grew increasingly discontent with corruption and the worsening quality of life. Economic growth was slowing down. Meanwhile, calls for a united Sordland Party Congress became louder as a leadership struggle started to brew. Now this is one that kind of is causing me a bit of trouble. Catherine Connolly would 100% join the internal opposition, but the internal opposition is going to be a businessman. A pro-market reform businessman, and we're going to see why that is not somebody that would suit with her opinions shortly. So would she keep supporting the president? I think she might just watch from the sidelines. I can't imagine Catherine Connolly doing that, though. Because of Soll's economic policies, I think she might keep supporting the president. The contender for party leadership was Ewald Alfonso, a reformist businessman who had become the leader of the reformist wing of the United Sordland Party. He's actually going to get rid of a lot of the measures that Soll brought in that I think somebody of Catherine Connolly's background would agree with. As in, she would disagree with Ewald getting rid of them. So Soll noticed your attempts to secure votes for him and approached you with a lucrative deal. You had a meeting with him. He offered you the position of Minister of Justice and Law in the next government if you backed him in the upcoming vote. Except, yeah. Now, we're not going to win, as far as I know. It's going to be a transfer to Alfonso. The Congress was nothing short of impressive. The banners of the United Sordland Party were decorating every possible spot. Thousands of influential political figures, lobbyists and benefactors gathered for the turning point. The voting for party leadership began. We will vote for Tarquain Soll. And unfortunately, he is defeated by Alfonso. So during the Congress, Soll announced he would retire, and Alfonso will become vice president. And we are troubled by the departure of Soll. A month later, a daughter is born. Our wife Monica names her Dina. Alfonso begins dismantling the old organisation and structures established by the USP, such as the State Educators Corp and the Swordish State Corporation Bill. So I don't think they don't sound like things that somebody like Catherine Connolly would support, getting rid of them. We will do our best not to help him. During the general elections, the main opposition leader was embroiled in a sex scandal with his secretary. He was replaced by the more popular Franz Richter. But the damage had been done. The new economic policies and the extensive privatization program proposed by Alfonso secured an election victory for the USP. Over the following years, you did your best to make Sordland a better place. The presidency of Alfonso saw many bold reforms in government and law and advancements in liberal democratic values. However, due to the infighting and disorganization, continental economic tensions and fast-track privatization, it was followed by severe economic recession. The other parties announced their bids for the 1953 election, but the unfair election system hampered opposition efforts to campaign. You were worried about the recession. With Peter's help, your presence in the USP grew. The two of you worked long nights together. He flipped opponents to your side. So we become the new face of the new wing of the party. Step by step, with adequate planning, our wing took over the leadership as Alfonso lost control of the party. The moment to make a move had come. She does make very public statements, and she did publicly air some laundry over Michael D. Higgins not stepping down. She accused him of dragging his heels. So we will go on television. The media backlash prompted Alfonso to reshuffle his cabinet, but his most of his inner circle, even the Minister of Development, Gus Magner, abandoned him. So a famous businessman, Minister of Rural Development. The party eventually voted you in because of your influence. Following this, you announced that you would be running for president in the general election with Peter as your running mate. It was your turn. There we go. More Papers, Please noise in the background. After visiting every city, you made a speech. You promised to enact democratic reforms. I'm never too sure which one is actually selected, so I think it's whichever one kind of turns the kind of tan brown color. The people are tired of empty promises. We need fundamental change in our institutions and government. A solid and transparent democracy awaits us. Brothers and sisters, a new constitution and a new age is upon us. Okay, so interesting. As part of the election campaign, we're promising a new constitution. Okay. Now, we're not, but I've selected democratic reform, and we're being told, brothers and sisters, new constitution. We need to remember that. Millions went out and cast their votes. I wonder what's going to happen. So, character customization. I was messing around a small bit with this. We have an extensive collection of hats. What we're going to try and do it's possible that the default one is probably... We'll go with the long for a second. Let's see if... How close can we get to something like Punchius de Rasa? How much of a militant tendency vibe can we get with our character? I think that's probably it. That's a bit awkward. The attire is referred to as Malinvist. Malinyevist. So that's effectively Marxist, I think, in this game. That's the... Again, I played just a couple of minutes of this to get an understanding of our kind of geopolitical scenario, but that's the communist dudes. So there we go. That's Anton Rayne. We're not going to be going in that direction, but is there... Comrade? Oh yeah, I know what comrade that is. Chief strategist? Idealist? Intellectual? I'm just saying the names of hairstyles now. Yeah, I think that's as close to kind of a Punchius de Rasa type vibe that we're getting. We'll finish. We should not be spending as much time on character creation in Suzerain as we would in Baldur's Gate 3. So, election campaign promises. As Anton Rayne, you have made consequential promises to the people of Sordland to gain their votes in the 1953 election campaign. Consider these commitments carefully. Economic direction. After the recent market reforms and the recession, the country finds itself stuck between two different economic systems, with indecision and turbulence causing the population to demand a direction. In IRL Ireland, it's going to be very hard to break the grasp of the market economy and of the free market, but Catherine Connolly has denounced... There is a video going around at the moment of her in the Dole denouncing the neoliberal economic policies of Leo Varadkar and Micheál Martin when Leo Varadkar was the Fine Gael leader, and in the last Fianna Fáil Fine Gael government coalition. So I think it would be somewhere in the middle. It would be a market economy with fairly heavy restrictions is maybe more the direction that she'd go in, but we're going to go for promote planned economy. Diplomatic leanings. We've the global rivalries between capitalist Arcasia in the west, the monarchy of Rumburg in the north, and the communist United Contana. So that's the Malignavist dudes. In the east, are intensifying. Sordland has the potential to align with either or lean towards neutrality. So fairly strongly in favour of neutrality. A number of her statements were broadcast or picked up by international media outlets, but it's a big thing at the moment in Ireland is trying to get Ireland to align with NATO. Then there's fears of remilitarisation and stuff like this, so definitely remain neutral would be a very strong Catherine Connolly policy. Immigration laws. In the last 5 years, Bludish, Wejik and Agnolian immigrants flocked to Sordland due to relaxed immigration laws enacted by former President Ewald Alfonso. As a result, these tensions are causing requests for a political solution. We will retain the relaxed immigration laws. And we have our term focus. So we have education, defence, most certainly not. Law and enforcement, potentially health. This is what it's going to be in the last election, 2024. Housing, cost of living, health were the three major concerns of voters. So Sordland's health system and healthcare quality have stagnated due to administrative inefficiencies, increased service demand, and an increasing divide in service quality between urban and rural hospitals. The average life expectancy has dropped significantly, with issues such as maternity, deaths, and disease outbreaks. We will finish. And there we go, we have the policies of our first government. There's a ton of stuff going on. So the first thing we have is our actual inauguration. It took me a short while to kind of make my way around. I actually haven't even opened up half of this stuff yet, but there's a lot of things going on here. So let's see if we can find a coherent and competent way of getting through this. 2 weeks have passed since we won the election. And now I was about to be sworn in as the 4th President of Sordland. Thousands were watching the inauguration ceremony and cheering my name, Anton Rayne. The die was cast. So it's space to select continue, but it's enter to select an option, even if there's only one option. In the distance, the Maroon Palace stood on top of the famous Hill of Pride. I had no way of knowing what future awaited me. One of my intentions was to read the short codex entries. So I was going to start this up and read some of them. And then I discovered, these entries are not short, and there are a lot of them. So I might have to do another playthrough at some stage to get an idea of the lore of this world. I'm not too sure, was this also like the basis of a D&D campaign like Disco Elysium was? The details are absolutely massive. All of these things can be clicked on. But this one's of interest to us. So the turning point was when the Kingdom of Sordland was announced from the balcony of the Maroon Palace, reflecting the shift of government power from Erleroy to Halsor during the transition period. So I think this is maybe the former capital. But if we come down here, we see talk of distilleries, and they have earned the international acclaim. So Erleroy is another city somewhere. They've earned international acclaim for their variations of the Erleroy Maroon, a whiskey that routinely, I know how to read, features in global whiskey championships. The exciting thing here is the E, the Irish spelling of whiskey. Torpor Studios are solid on the national question. So in the late 1800s, we added an E to the spelling of whiskey to distinguish it from Scottish whiskey. So, Whiskey with E, only buy whiskey if it has an E in it. So the Maroon Palace is basically Oris and Uachtaráin. I looked at my family. My son and daughter, Frank and Dina, were next to Monica, my wife. Then I turned towards the key people who made it all possible. Of course, they would all get positions in the government. So my previous rival and former president, Ewald Alfonso, was president, but Éamon de Valera was also invited, but as expected, he did not leave his island retreat. He's gone off to the Blaskets or something like that, maybe off to Aaron Moore or something. As my thoughts slowly faded away, the reality of the situation dawned on me. Orso Hoker, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, was waiting for me. The time for the oath has come. It has indeed. So please repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will respectfully execute the office of President of Sordland and to the best of my ability preserve, protect and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Sordland. Well, we'll see about that. You may now deliver your speech, Mr. President. Thank you. So, brothers and sisters is how we made our televised debate. The crowd looked very eager to listen to me. The current dire situation. Change and hope. That's kind of what Catherine Connolly offered in her speech. You the people have chosen. Together we will bring prosperity and reform to our nation. It is time for hope. It is a time of change. The issues that plague us. We still have insufficient infrastructure, houses without electricity, without water. We have crime in our streets, unemployment within the youth, and we still have injustices in the government that plague us. So because of the democratic reform, this definitely isn't something that any major Irish politician would be agitating for at the moment, would be constitutional reform. So we will either stop the recession and eliminate poverty, or... Yeah, I think you see most people would probably go in that route if they were seeking to make any substantial changes in modern Ireland, because creating an entire new constitution would be a hefty amount of work, which could be put better towards trying to deal with recession and poverty. Change now, not in the next decade or years. Today, hundreds of thousands cheered. They were shouting my name in unison. I felt the responsibility, the power and the burden, all at the same time. We'll wave. Nice little friendly wave. The way we don't frighten the people who are freaked out by our hairstyle and our fancy uniform. One of the presidential guards came to notify me that it was time to leave, so we head towards the motorcade. The presidential state car was a jet black Cadilla, with flags of Sordland above the front headlights. Next to it, a man was holding the door. Serge Volkner. Hello, Mr. President. I still felt euphoric from the aftermath of my speech. Hearing my new title made me smile even more. If you'll allow me to introduce myself, I am Serge, your new driver. Nice to meet you. It's an honor. He respectfully bowed his head before opening the car door and gesturing inside. I entered the car. We will now be heading towards the palace. The motorcade began to move. On the way, he proceeded to explain what life is like as an Uber driver in Sordland. So I found myself lost in thought. He suddenly gestured out the window. Isn't it a beauty? The Maroon Palace. He was right. Sunlight glinted off the palace's many maroon-coloured domes. Every time I look at it, I am reminded of my duty to this nation. It's in good hands now, so do I. It is the beating heart of the nation after all. It's just a building, Serge. Shut up. Shut up and keep driving, or I'm only giving you a couple of stars, not as many as you need. I don't know how many stars Uber drivers get. Is it 3? This lad's only getting 1. So do I, Serge. It's the beating heart of the nation. Well said, Mr. President. So we drive in. He opens the door for us. Have a great day. Amorgna wes cor. He referred to the famous Swordish phrase from the times of revolution. Amorgna wes cor, vectern sis da, which meant morning will come, victory is close. Chucky our law. Chucky our law to you as well, Serge. I made my way upstairs through the extravagant corridors of the palace, marble and engraved wooden finishes decorated the interior. My footsteps echoed in the colossal halls. The guards bowed their heads in respect as I opened the massive doors to my new office. I like this idea that we've just been dropped off by an Uber driver at Ors Nuctron, and it's just to wander in, just go where you want. There's a couple of soldiers in there, all they're doing is bowing, but nobody's actually... Like, there's no reception party. We just show up at the Oris. Fantastic. Right, this is the world we live in. Let's see if we can make our way around. These are the states of Sordland. It did take me a while to kind of figure out what in the name of God is going on here. So we have the neighbouring nation of Agnolia. We have this absolutely terrifyingly massive monarchist shower of divils. Rumburg, I just see the Tranquil Sea. They could do with a bit of... That's their capital as well. They could do with a bit of tranquility, because I think they attacked... They attacked these lads recently and took this place. Oh, Jesus. They took a good chunk of territory off of them. So, Agnolia, no, England, this is our territory, but it has connections with these guys. This is our kind of main, there's the capital, so this is our main area. And then what we can do, if I can find my way over there, the regional map. What a crazy world that's been created. And it's going to be exciting to see how much of it appears in the, I think it's the Conformist, the CRPG, the disco-like that's set in this world. So there is the absolutely huge kingdom of Rumburg. There's poor old Agnolia. There's ourselves. There's Lespia. Wayland, who there was a civil war and that's what caused some argy-bargy there a while back. Rizia, a monarchy which you can also play as with the most recent DLC. Down here we have the Arcassian Treaty Organization. I'm not too sure where Arcassia actually is, but this is very much seeming to me like basically the United States. And I don't know, is this more NATO or more the EU? And then up in the corner, we have the Comintern, the Kantanen Security Pact. I have no idea where they are. They might be way off. They might be way off over there, but they are... Basically, we can click on all these, but there's a huge amount of writing. So the Kantanen Security Pact, intergovernmental military and economic alliance established by Chairman Leon Maliniev. So that's the Malinyevist style of clothing that we're wearing. So they basically oppose the ATO. And with our planned economy, that's the direction that you'd expect us to go, is off towards these guys. But, like I said, we're going to try and remain to the best of our ability. We're going to try and remain neutral. Here is Galmland, which some people over on the Suzerain subreddit think could be Ireland and think could be the next focus of DLC. They have a leader. Their leader's name is Breed something or other, and it's the old Irish, the old Gaelic spelling of Breed as well, which is what has a lot of people thinking that this is Ireland and that this is England, the Divils, Valgsland, because apparently they're mean to Galmland. So that's the immediate international situation we actually have. We might as well click on them. Reports coming in. The Prime Minister Van Hoorten of Agnolia congratulates us on our election, praised our stance on just and transparent elections, signalled his wishes to continue the trade partnership between our countries as equal partners, because apparently an earlier trade deal gave us some advantages. So the ATO advocates for global human rights amid tensions. So these are all noises that somebody like Catherine Connolly would like, but it's an intergovernmental military, wouldn't like that part, and economic alliance that has issued an expansive report examining the state of human rights worldwide amid intensifying nuclear developments and efforts to counteract the expanding influence of the Contanin Security Pact. The ATO's commitment to championing human rights remains unwavering. So I think we might favor these guys, but we're going to focus pretty much on neutrality. That's bringing us into our own area. So here's another one of our neighbors, Smolak. The president of Wayland has congratulated us on our election and signals a desire to normalize the diplomatic situation between the two countries. Chancellor Hagel of Valgsland has signaled concessions might be possible if there is a promising trade deal. And he has warned us about the threat of Arcasia's growing influence. So they are linked to the Contanin. Alvarez of Lesbia has sent us a congratulations. Has warned us about the Malinyavist influence. And then we're into our own area. So we have some low production in England. Our main port is now down to 3rd in the region. The general staff has gathered. There's the chief of the armed forces. So everybody, I think, showed up at Camp Strongarm to congratulate us on our victory. There's Vulcan Kruger, the chief of the armed forces. So all the characters in this have a substantial codex entries on their history up to this point in time. I wonder, does that continue as stuff happens, as the game moves forward? Will they continue to be updated? So we have logistical issues in Hullsword. We have a lack of investment in Agnolia, and then we're back to our reports on that region. Right. Where to begin? We're obviously being told to go here to Hullsword, which is why we're going to totally ignore it. The newspapers. Campaign bill, fair representation in the Assembly. So we have a bill that's currently making its way through. Rayne spoke of change and hope. Sordland today. President Anton Rayne. Displaying USP banners. The city is celebrating that a Dare-born president with humble roots is now sitting in the Maroon Palace. So this is the game's version of Galway. So we have The Economist end Solonomics. Uh-oh, they're not going to be happy with us, I don't think. So Solonomics would be the policies of Tarquain Soll, which we're going to see in a moment. We might be keeping. The government's role in Sordland should be to integrate to the world economy and reap the benefits of global trade. Economic growth and income inequality in this country won't be fixed otherwise. So these, I think, might be some of the more regional papers. The Radical, another USP president. We've seen this before with Colonel Soll, who supposedly saved this country and brought stability in times of chaos. His stability, however, meant a life of oppression. So they're not too happy. And then Geopolitical is another paper that hasn't even bothered to write anything nice about us. Right, let's click on the capital. And we can open the city information. So all of these cities have information on the ethnicity and the religion, and there's actually a number of different religions. There's Dastnurity. So we're not going to get too wrapped up right away. There's Derrida. There it is, the nearest The the Newest Republic. Divine God, Prophet Warwick, and the Newest Republic. That's their motto. They have... Oh my god, there's even entries on some of the languages and cultures. So, the International Newest Alliance is an intergovernmental religious alliance led by the Newest Republic of Durdia. That's an interesting... That is an interesting symbol. Is this insular Christianity? We'll have to check that out later. We'll be here all day if we go looking through all the stuff. Where are we going? Back to the national map. Economy unstable. That's the way we like it. We have a briefing on the current political situation. What I'm going to get through for the first episode. I might try and keep these episodes to around the hour mark. And we're going to go over the hour mark with this. But for the very first episode, what I'm going to do is cover the economic situation. So we have Simon Hole, Gus Manger, who was one of the people who backed Alfonso and then came across to our side, and Lelis Graf. And I know that I have seen a description of her wearing basically the insular Christian cross, the Neurist guys, whatever. So we have Simon Hall is we can actually get it here, Minister of the Economy. Gus Manger is the manager, rural development, so agriculture. And Lelis Graf is the Minister of the Interior. So the two assistants arrive first carrying a heavy projector. They stood with it by the door, waiting for the ministers to enter. From the hallway, I heard Lelis Graf's voice. She was using the patient, almost motherly tone she often took in heated arguments. Gus, do you really think that such an economically advanced area is more in need of investment than England? Lelis, my interior minister, strode in. She was clad in shades of brown and beige, the only spot of colour a bright yellow Dast Neuris cross on her necklace. Gus followed close behind. Don't be an idiot, Lilas. What about the unemployment crisis the Greater Hullsword and Gelsland regions are going through? These areas are our economic heartland. Gus curled his hands into fists. The Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development's temper hadn't changed since the days in the Alfonso administration, but neither had his reputation for getting things done. His far-reaching network of connections was unlike any other. Simon Hole stepped between them. He cleared his throat. Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, children. I am very well and motivated, Mr. Rayne. It seems our ministers are feeling the same. Simon, don't be a bitch. Just as expected. How is it going, Gus and Lilas? I can see that. What was the discussion about? Sure. We were having a discussion about the infrastructure plans. If I may, I would like to talk about... And Simon interrupts. We will get there, Gus, no rush. First, I would like to conduct my economy presentation. Considering this is a meeting on the economy, I think we should go with the economy presentation first of all. Let's begin. I'm looking forward to this. So Simon pulls a silk handkerchief out of his pocket and briefly wiped his glasses. My staff and I have comprehensively analysed every aspect of... He was interrupted by a groan from one of the assistants, who've been left holding up the projector. And he tells them to place it below a painting of Éamon de Valera. The assistants placed the projector next to the table and installed a white screen on the wall. Leave now. Thank you. Leave now. The assistants left the cabinet. I was reminded that Simon had never quite had a way with people, but his facility with numbers had made him the most sought-after economic specialist in Sordland. Simon started looking for his slides. He always carried documentation around with him. We will wait. So Lilas leans on the table and spoke. We won't yawn. Simon, what happened to the new police station? Construction in Estord, and I think we can actually like click on these places. So if we click on Estord, we can actually go to the location, so we can actually be dragged over in that direction. So there is Estord, we can open up the region. We don't have as much religious diversity. Here we have a high degree of them Rumburgian royalist devils in this region, in Estord, which is a city in Nargis. I don't know if we have entries on the actual regions themselves. We don't, so we don't get like ethnicity and religious makeup of those, but incredible levels of detail. No wonder there is a disco-like coming in this universe. So Simon, what happened to the new police station that was being constructed there? While going through his briefcase, he paused for a moment to answer. It got stalled due to a government property boundary issue. I have been meaning to look into it. I can take a look at that one, Estord. Or I should say, I can take a look at that one. Estord needs all the security help it can get. Sure. More time for me to spend on data analysis. Oh yeah, Simon is a party man. And by party, I don't mean going out and partying on a Friday night. His eyes glittered when he found the slides that he was looking for. There have been some developments about the Swordfish Rayne losing further value today. We've been trying to stabilize it with the central bank. The recession of 51 put enormous pressure on the economy, resulting in the collapse of the value of our currency. The entire situation was a significant cause of concern for our administration. What would you like to know about the current economic situation? Simon, explain to me what GDP means, please. So, what is our GDP in debt situation? We'll start at the top. So, 310 billion Swordfish Rayne, and the national debt is 427 billion. And we've lost 150 billion in wealth, says Gus. It's hard to fathom how that happened. The last 3 years have been tough. What is unemployment and inflation like? So, 16% unemployment. And inflation, 10% is not great. That's not brilliant. And the unemployment is increasing crime and drug use, says our Interior Minister. We need to get people off the streets. What's the status of the recession? Minus 6% for the past year. Average GDP has dropped from 15,000 to 10,000 per capita from 1951. And I think it's 1954, so that's not great. So the administration's success depends on our ability to stop the recession. The sooner we can reach GDP growth, the better. I have all the information needed. Let's move on to economic strategy. So Simon scattered the paper stack in front of him in an orderly manner and took a final look at the notes before clearing his throat. As you can see, the situation is alarming, but not everything is negative. The extensive privatization program of Alfonso and key foreign direct investments left us a large budget surplus, which we can use to stabilize the crisis. The primary subject we need to settle on is what general path we will take in our term. Solonomics-based nationalization happened in the 30s, and Alfonso's privatization began during the end of the 40s. What will our administration focus on? One of our main promises was to promote a planned economy to stop the recession. To be frank, no, you're going to be Simon. I still don't think that was a good idea. We shouldn't go back to Solonomics. It was the reason for the recession. And Lilas Graff says, self-sufficiency will help us in tough times. Simon ignored the statement. So we have a couple of different options. Economic systems without regulation are bound to fail. What are the consequences of the free market? The more of the economy we control, the better we can manage the recession. What are the downsides of the planned economy? So Solonomics is put at nationalisation. There was no large-scale nationalisation in Ireland under De Valera because there was nothing to nationalise. However, self-sufficiency very strongly associated in the 1930s with De Valera during the economic war. I'm actually prepping a video on this at the moment for The Irish Nation Lives. And So protectionism would be a policy heavily associated with De Valera and Fianna Fáil in this time period. So it's interesting to see that it's associated with Soll, and maybe that's another reason why that user on the subreddit, the Suzerain subreddit, felt that they were linked to Éamon de Valera. Like I said, in modern Ireland, it's going to be a continuation of free market economics, no matter who's important, especially no matter who's the president, because they have no power whatsoever over this area. I did another video on what somebody like Conor McGregor could have done, because he was going forward for the presidency. I'll put a link to that up. And the president is a largely symbolic position in Ireland. But if Catherine Connolly was Taoiseach, if she had executive power, I don't think she or anybody else would move Ireland away from its free market-based approach, but there is a beginning of stirrings that we're too free market. I don't think we'll ever see a return to the good old days of 1930s protectionism and economic stagnation, but here we have to make a choice. The more the economy we control, the better we can manage economic systems without regulation. I like the sound of that. But I'm wondering, like, that's definitely a planned economy route. Actually, Sean Lemass proposed a planned economy in the 1930s, but Ireland was so industrially underdeveloped that we couldn't collect the data required for a planned economy. At various different stages, what Fianna Fáil was suggesting in the 30s was effectively a planned economy. Obviously, there is some regulation in all of the existing systems, otherwise it would be anarchy. Nobody wants a chaotic society. From taxes to the standard of goods, there are many elements that regulate all aspects of the system. But is it enough? I doubt it. If we can manage to plan more aspects of the economy, our chances of success would increase with a talented team like ours. The structural problems of Solonomics were going to lead to a recession, according to the predictions at the time anyway. Either way, even if we pick one of the doctrines, we retain the option to make economic choices on a case-by-case basis. That is, however, not recommended in my point of view. The last thing we need is a chaotic economic plan. Finally, something we can both agree on. There is another important factor which has a direct impact on our economy. Our neighbours, the superpowers. We've done well not aligning ourselves with any one of them. Economically speaking, an isolationist policy overall could only work if we were to reap the benefits of both spheres and their rivalry. This is very dangerous to attempt, but still possible, and that is what we will be attempting. We must be cautious. There are schemes being devised about Sordland. We cannot give in to their wants now or in the future, otherwise our country will turn into a pawn. So we will not be controlled by any other nations. Exactly, Soll was right all along with his policies. Soll did nothing wrong. I still haven't decided if we wish to come with a deal. I still haven't decided if they wish to come with a deal. I'm not too sure what that's actually in reference to. Sordland will not be controlled by any nations. Precisely my point. We will stand strong and show an example to the world. I hope we won't regret this. When the time comes, I hope you will make the right decision for our own good. We should attract more foreign direct investment. Mr. President, we saved the country from a full-on depression in 52 and 53 by signing lucrative trade deals with nations such as Rizia, Lesbia and Quenelle, so they're all to our south. Simon cleared his throat. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Minister Whiskey will be in charge of informing you on those types of foreign policy decisions. We must first decide on our internal economic plan. So he's put forward a number of documents. We have to thank Soll and his planned economy for the boom. It clearly shows the success of the system. 100%. Precisely the reason why we should stick to the old system, says Lilas. State planning and regulation both showed great success in the 30s, only for a limited time until even Tarquain Soll himself discovered the limits of the system. The slowdown began during his rule, remember? Would a planned economy focus bring us stronger allies? So that'll tell us that that would bring us closer to the United Contana. So they would look at our country in a more positive light. Whatever that's worth. The influence of Arcasia has on the world economy is extensive, or the influence that they have is extensive. Our economic strategy would be based on internal reasoning, though, or it should be. If we look at what's on the economic schedule, picking a construction company, trade relations, tax reform, and welfare privatization or nationalization initiatives would be some of them. We must choose wisely and remember that the free market economy in all forms is the future of the world. So let's move on to the conclusion. What are your thoughts, Mr. President? Critical institutions must remain in state control. We should look at opportunities like privatization. A market economy doesn't require as much guidance. It is hard to fully agree or disagree with these options. You already know what we're going to do. Critical institutions must remain in state control. So a market economy doesn't mean privatization of every single institution, but either way, you make the choices. So what will our general economic plan promote? Promote a planned economy, as we promised. Not sure if we made the right decision here. Gus looked worried. Now that there is clarity on which direction we are heading, I will work on a good plan accordingly. This concludes our meeting. At our next gathering, we will talk about the upcoming infrastructure investment plan. And now that the economic direction was decided upon, the ministers dispersed for lunch at the Maroon Palace. And so we now have a ton of new pop-ups around the place. We have reports coming in from left, right, and centre. We have a number of new news reports. So tourism is a beacon for Sordland. The campaign bill, so we've read that one. So those are some of the older reports. Fueling Sordland's tomorrow. So Gazam, a privately owned, for now, Swordish energy company. The economy meeting was held. Let's see what these lads won't be happy. Armadine Industries, pioneering electronics. They've said nothing about bringing back Solonomics. Freezing temperatures recorded. Alfonso ditches Lotharberg, a sign of discord. So he has cut ties with a private non-government organisation which assesses the economic conditions of Sordland and the globe. Hell's bells. Our overview has changed slightly, so here's our economic overview. So we're promoting a planned economy. In line with our economic vision, we are advocating for a planned economy system, urging businesses to align their operations with this approach. Through comprehensive economic planning and coordinated resource allocation, we aim to optimize productivity, ensure social welfare, and achieve long-term economic stability and growth. So if we have situations, tax evasion, and then we have a couple of localized scenarios. So Bergia, its economy is declining at a rapid rate due to a lack of investment. So we have policies for a wide variety of things. We have our connections. So there's Peter Vectrin. And we can actually bring up some data on them. And I'm sure it'll change from time to time. Our education minister, health minister, justice minister. There's the economy. There's... Oh, that divil. You sacked me from my job. You divil. You gave out to me for letting refugees through. You made me scrub the floors. I'll put you scrubbing the floors. You'll scrub the floors of this palace, so you will. And we have Lucien Gallade. Where's... Oh, there he is. There's David Whiskey. The Foreign Affairs and Trade Minister. We have our massive codex. We have the journal. I don't think there's a huge... Oh, we can make... we can take notes and get some past reports. We have an economic stability pop-up. There you go. Look at that. It's through the roof. Absolutely brilliant. So it tells us the changes over time. So there you go. One of these is stability and one of these is the economy. Oh no, I think maybe if it stays above this, it's stable. So, good things are happening already. Some of these might be fairly lengthy to go through. So we have a report, infrastructure report. The recent collapse of the tourism industry in Lenkberg has led to a reduction in trade traffic and road maintenance. So the road network is currently in service but in need of substantial improvement. Firms doing business there report a significant shortage of warehousing facilities, with implications both for the transportation system and the ability to serve the population's basic food and health needs. Promising agricultural growth in Sarna. Farmers are now accessing more generous credit allowances from the government that were left over from the Alfonso administration. Reports the region's agricultural industry has the potential to become a powerhouse. So Rizia... Well, this is our first offer from Rizia. This is the first time that he's contacted us. So he praised our democratic ethos. The king anticipates a future of close cooperation. So you can also play as this guy in the DLC. And with that, we are finished with all of our regional reports, with all of our reports from our cities on their unemployment and infrastructure problems. And what we are left with is a briefing on the current political situation, which I will deal with on the next episode. I'm going to do probably 2 more episodes here on this channel, and then I'm going to move the series across to the Maniacal R&D channel. So I'll create a playlist, the way it's easier to kind of find all of the videos, because there's lots of stuff coming up that I want to cover here. But that brings to an end our first episode on Catherine Connolly's rule of Sordland. What do you think? How do you think I did? Is there any choices that you would have made differently in relation to character creation or to the economy? I'm delighted how many references to Éamon de Valera and Sean Lamass and Fianna Fáil's economic policies in the 1930s we were able to bring in. Do you think Tarquain Soll is based on Éamon de Valera? Do you think he's a good comparison to de Valera? Or is it just that there's a couple of things that link them, and you could actually link them to many other historical figures? And do you think Galmland, way off over in this direction, do you think Galmland is based on Ireland? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you all very much for joining me on this episode, and I hope you will join me on the next one, because the Maroon Palace, we need to paint it, so I need people to help me. That's going to be you.